having children should not be the reason you don't go for your dreams, but they should be the reason you do. I enjoy working. I love showing my daughter you can strive for whatever you're wanting to do, and just seeing her see me doing things and going for my dreams and including her in a lot of my things is really important to me.
Hello, hello. This is Samantha Saxby with another episode of Moms with Benefits. And today I am here with Danielle Melton. Danielle is the founder and CEO of MOTHERboard. You may have heard of MOTHERboard. She is a speaker and a coach. She's an adjunct professor. She is a workplace wellness and mom burnout expert. And she's a Forbes contributor and Forbes Coaches Council member. So, Danielle, super duper excited to have you on the Moms with Benefits podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Samantha. And just hearing all those things that's under my hat, oh my gosh, it makes me want to have coffee just even hearing the list. So I'm
Me
so happy to
too.
be here. Yes.
I want coffee, but I also want like all the secrets of like how the heck you do it. So, talk to me about your transition into motherhood.
So I entered into motherhood very non-traditionally, and that's through foster care. So my husband and I, a few years back, said, hey, let's kind of give back to our community in this way. And we decided to become foster parents. And we don't have children biologically, but we chose that path. I have been, working hard on, building my career and climbing the ladder, and my background is in education too, so I taught in the university level, early childhood and things like that. And the funny thing is, people are telling me, oh, when you have kids it's going to be totally different. I'm like, no, research says this, studies say that, this is what I teach, it's not going to be that bad. But yes, they were right. The juggle is real, was real, and continues to be real. It is definitely, it was eye-opening when I, had my first placement and trying to still do executive leadership and trying to figure out that juggle, that balance. I just felt super overwhelmed. So yeah, I was kind of like thrown into motherhood, once I, became a foster parent. So it's a different way of doing things. I love my journey. I love where I am. And I have found that, I guess, integration dance for the work and life piece. So yeah, so that's just a little bit about me.
Yeah,
In
no, I'm interested to talk more about the support or the social climate around entering motherhood by being a foster mother. And I know you mentioned this previously when we talked that you've fostered over 30 children. What was the reception like? Like, I only know like my time off of work as a birthing mother. And so I'm just very curious of how you felt society treated you.
So one of the things, what I've noticed is a lot of companies, if they have leave, like parental leave, a lot of times I'm noticing they have the leave for fostering. So when you have a child placed in your home, I know my husband used to work at American Airlines. They do have that policy that, you can be home for, as long as you need to. I believe it's up to 6 weeks to have that bond with your foster child. So that was something really, really cool and interesting. But where I worked during that time, they didn't really have that in place. At the same time, I didn't know to ask for that. Didn't even think to look into it, because I'm like, fostering is fostering. It's not, birthing or adopting and things like that. But many of the places that I've researched, if they do have, parental leave, they do have some kind of policy for like fostering or children coming into your home for bonding.
That's great to hear that they did have something in place. It sounds like for your husband. Have you seen over the years? Like, are you familiar with the space? Has it evolved over time?
The fostering space.
Yeah, like the benefits given from employers to support parents.
So I wouldn't say it evolved, more so. So one of the things I do help support different businesses to be more family friendly and more, mom friendly. So one of the things we do speak about is keeping that thing in mind when people do enter into parenthood non-traditionally. So helping a lot of companies to be a little bit more open minded and, see things, I guess, more globally, more bigger when it comes to benefits, on how they can make sure that they are supporting instead of excluding certain types of, people and, walks of life. All that to say is a lot of places don't really have it or haven't thought about it if they're not like super into, we're going to really, really care about our parents.
That makes sense, and that sounds like awesome work that you're doing. So let's keep it going then. Tell me about what it's like for you being a working mom. Like, what makes you excited about being and calling yourself a working mom?
So as I mentioned, I entered into motherhood non-traditionally. So, at first it was very challenging, and I really enjoyed my career. And I was wondering, like, how are people doing this? How are they, having this love for both? Because I really, strive for that. One thing that I do encourage moms to do, I say, like, having children should not be the reason you don't go for your dreams, but they should be the reason you do. I enjoy working. I love showing my daughter you can strive for whatever you're wanting to do, and just seeing her see me doing things and going for my dreams and including her in a lot of my things is really important to me. Whereas she's talking about, being an entrepreneur and knowing, like, hard work, beats talent at many times. And, just creating that spark in her eyes is like everything for me. I just don't think you should have to sacrifice what you love because because you become a mother. It should just be, an added piece.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. I haven't heard that phrased like specifically like that before. So, being a mom should be the reason you go after your dreams.
Yes, I've coached so many moms that are like, I don't know if I can do it. I'm a mom, I'm this and that. I'm like, well, let's figure out how we can, because again, it's not just you, but you also have kiddos watching you too. So,
Hmm.
um, one thing I want to mention is my mom. She was the type that put her dreams on hold for us. So seeing that and living through that, I didn't want that for myself. I mean, she did such a great job raising us, but I'm like, oh, I didn't want us to be the reason you don't, go for things. So I wanted to make sure that I'm able to preach that and walk that, because again, my household, my dad worked, she stayed at home and raised us. And then afterwards, then she was like, okay, what do I want to do with my life? Who am I? So,
Yeah.
just not losing yourself in motherhood either is really important.
Yeah, that who am I question, I think, comes up a lot as moms transition into motherhood. I know it came up for me a lot. It's very interesting the kind of the three generation example you just used of how your childhood and your transition to adulthood, your relationship with your parents is now directly affecting your parenting style, and your relationship with work as a mom. And it just like it's obvious, but it's also something that I think we're not conscious of sometimes. And so that's just a really, really interesting full circle moment, it sounds like.
I mean, I know many people who kind of had the same kind of journey, but it's either like you take that information and like dwell on it and like say like this will be my path, or you kind of choose to do something different. And I chose the latter because I wanted more, and I want to show my daughter and others that more can happen. It just really depends on, you have to have a really good support system. You have to have great goals to hitting those things, and just have like the willpower to keep going.
Yeah. And so has your approach to work or working changed since becoming a mom?
One of the things, I am an overworker, and I know that, like, hi everybody, I'm Danielle, I overwork. So I know that this is a challenge that I have. So before having kids, I, hey, what did you need? I'm doing everything. Like, I wanted to be seen as the one who can do it all. And I think that's a thing that I had when it came to imposter syndrome. I was in spaces where I was the only woman or the only African American, and I wanted to make sure that people knew I belonged in that space. So working like that, I mean, it did take a lot. And once you add a child to it, I really had a challenge trying to figure that out. I'm like, I'm used to giving my all to work. And now I have kids. I have to wake up early. I can't sleep in on the weekend. Like, what is going on? Like, how do I do this? So it's just really important to find that integration, that sweet spot. And one of the biggest things that I did for that is to create some boundaries in place. So it was really funny. I had a manager, which I was like a director of operations of a whole school district. So I was working 60-hour weeks. I was just doing so much. And once I became a foster parent, like it shifted. So instead of me, working till 6, I'll work till 4. And there's sometimes I remember I was brought into the office. Again, I'm still working my 40 hours. And they're like, is everything okay? You seem like you're a little distant. And I'm like, please explain. And basically I wasn't working like a dog. That was the expectation. So I had to explain to them, well, I'm just going to work my hours. If there's something extra needed, like just let me know. And I try to explain, hey, I have a new kiddo. I'm trying to be more present and things like that. But I had to set those boundaries. And it was just so interesting because they're used to me working crazy. So me pulling back, they thought there was an issue, even though no balls were dropping. I just was, I was splitting my time.
Yeah, that is interesting, the perception of, like, the change from the outside folks, but I love the takeaway of boundaries that you gave, and so we talk about, like, this term work-life balance, air quote, over balance, there's work-life integration, like, where do you stand on that? Like, what frame of mind, mantra, kind of, phrasing works for you?
I don't like balance. Balance is not the thing. I mean, that's impossible. You cannot have exactly both with the same energy, the same timing. That's impossible. So, for me, work life balance implies like perfect equilibrium. Super misleading. So to me, it's more about finding like harmony or integration between the different aspects of our lives. I kind of say it's more like a dance. There's moments, of grace. There's moments of missteps, and it just happens. One analogy I like to use is like it's like juggling. So we juggle. Inevitably, balls will fall. And you just got to know which balls are rubber, which balls are glass, and understand that it's okay to pick things up and start again, or it's okay to pick things up and say, hey, can you take this ball? Because I can't do that right now. So it's just really important to keep that in mind that we are one person. We are not superwomen. I hate that term. You're a superwoman. No, we are one person. And for the society to put so much demand on us and so much unrealistic expectation is just horrible in my opinion. So that's why I'm out here advocating for the well-being of us as working moms.
That it reminds me of, like, I love the analogies that you used of juggling and just knowing kind of like which ones are plastic and which ones are glass. And so there's different priorities there and different consequences, I guess, associated if you were to drop a ball. And so something that has been super helpful to me as a new mom of, he's 11 months old right now, is the house being clean. Like, it is
Mm.
just, pre-kids, like, very organized person, I'm a minimalist, like, we don't got stuff everywhere, and now we have stuff exploding everywhere. There are child toys everywhere, and so for me, just knowing that, like, I'm, I guess, okay with dropping the ball of like a clean, organized, minimalist house. Like, I'm cool with that. We live in our house. We're lucky enough to own a house and be safe inside and have toys to play with and have food to get food spilled over everywhere. And so, is there any examples for you that of like a certain ball or a certain area that you're okay deprioritizing or that you've learned is not so important?
Yes. So I'm really big on setting goals. I think that is one of the biggest things that helped me so much with my journey. I even created a goal setting workbook. I have a goal setting workshops that literally was created from what I have gone through and, figuring it out. But the biggest thing is like when it comes to priorities, like figuring out what is definitely a priority or what isn't. One of the biggest things I like to say is like, okay, so if once you're making goals, like what is your end goal? All right, so we have that in mind. Now, all these things that's coming in, does that help towards the end goal or not? Do we need to go to our nephew's football game this time? Maybe not. You know, do we need to go to that extra conference at work, even though our mindset is to get this, new position over here? Probably not. So let's not say yes to that conference. Let's not say yes to this one football game. So let's say yes to things that more so goes towards what you're moving toward. If your children, if you're trying to get them more integrated into church, so let's do more things around that. We'll say yes to that, but maybe not. Like I said, the football game. The conference is over here, but hey, I know that there's a workshop that helped me to get to that next level. I may take that instead. So just knowing those things and really saying yes and no to things that go towards that goal is super, super important. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard, especially us being yes people. A lot of moms and a lot of women, we don't really say no that well. We don't want to disappoint. We want to show again that we belong in a space, that we're just as good as, men and things like that. But we just got to remember, like, we have to prioritize ourselves. We cannot, give the best version of ourselves to anything if we're not taking care of ourselves.
And knowing, I think that the scarcity is time. Time is like the most valuable asset. And so being protective of that time and having boundaries around that time, it sounds like is like the common denominator for those boundaries.
It is. And the lack of boundaries is what's happening with burnout. Like, what does it say? 70% of women in the workplace are 70% of moms with children under age of 18 are in the workplace. And out of those 70%, they're two times more likely to experience burnout compared to non-moms experiencing like the same kind of things because of so many things coming at us, so many, our hands are in so many pots. And one of the things we have to keep in mind is like the ability to say no to certain things is crucial, but you don't have to say it in a mean way. And I think that's the biggest thing too. Is like, how do I tell them without hurting their feelings? Like, there's ways to do it. Hey, I'm so sorry I can't go to this game this time, but next time, tell me a little bit earlier, and I would love to come. Or,
Hmm.
hey, that conference sounds so good, but right now I'm trying to get this thing together because I'm trying to go here. Hey, maybe what about this conference? Or, hey, girls have a good time at the conference. Can't wait to hear what you have to say and what you've learned. You're not going still. You're being gentle. You're being kind, and you're still setting those boundaries.
Yeah, it's a great point. There's it reminds me of two trends right now happening, and one is loud budgeting and one is loud
Mm-hmm.
parenting. And so loud budgeting is, the ability to express to your family, your friends, kind of your circle that your financial goals are, X, Y, and Z. And so, you're not able to commit to certain things that might be a change in behavior for you in the past. And then similarly, loud parenting, especially in an employer setting, is being vocal about your parenting duties so that it can be
Mm-hmm.
more normalized. Thoughts on those concepts?
Yes, loud budgeting is I really love that. Like, I think it's so important to do loud things, period. Like, include other people, have those people to understand, and also have your back on things is really important because being transparent is important, period. If you say, oh, I don't want to do this, why? Oh, just because. It's like, okay, like, tell me a little bit more. I'm going to keep digging until I understand. So helping people to understand, like, where you're at, your boundaries, and how they can help support you on, those different journeys are really important. I know my sister, she's a financial coach as well, and she's big on like, let's work together as a family. This is her family, my parents, and like say, okay, these are our goals. How do we want to reach them? Okay, and let's encourage each other. And at first, that was we're kind of quiet on a lot of those things, so that had to get us something new to us to do. Like, we had to get used to that. And now we're all like, oh no, that's not in the budget. We're not doing that. We'll just let
Yeah.
our family know. I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
It can be hard when you first start, I think, and then once you kind of, like, get your toe in the water and start to talk about it more, it feels
Mhm.
like easier. People get more used to having those conversations, I think.
Then saying it to the right people. Like, again, my circle is like, we're all about it. So we're talking about it. If I just had some random person like, oh, my budget is, they're like, okay, like, let me explain a little bit. So, yeah, having the right people around you to help support that is important. And just before we move on, I know you mentioned the loud parenting. That is super important as well. And one of the things I'm helping employers and the moms in the workplace do is be more transparent and open about things. Hey, my child has we had a mom that I was coaching, and she really wanted to take off on Fridays, like leave a little early so she can go to her child was interested in gymnastics. Now, she's an engineer at a local company here. She was kind of reluctant and afraid of how to ask because she never asked off. So I kind of coached her through how to do it. So she came to me the next time and said, oh my gosh, my supervisor was so excited for me to ask because they said, you never ask. Of course, we would love to, support you in that. So that went really well. But why was she afraid in the first place to ask? So what culture was created at work, and why didn't the employer already create that space for her to feel comfortable? So, two pieces to it. So I'm here to help with both of those because, being able to allow parent is important on both sides, basically.
Yeah, interesting. And so I'm gathering from the work you do, you work a lot with employees, employers. Do you have experience with incorporating managers into the fold? Like, talk to me about that dynamic.
Yes. So with Motherboard, basically what we do is we give the moms the tools and resources through like our trainings, and then monthly we give monthly reports to the organization saying, hey, this is what they've learned this month. These are the challenges they said per our survey, and this is how you can help support. So those conversations are we do trickle it down like specifically to like, okay, the supervisors, how are you creating the culture? But a lot of times it really starts from like the big picture, like the organization as a whole. This is what the issue is. So where are we in HR with that? Where are we with the managers? Where are we with everyone who works within the company in this culture? So yes, it's all the pieces. And it's so interesting because a lot of supervisors, they feel that they're doing it. They're like, I am creating a workplace that's comfortable, that they there's policies in place. Of course we have parent leave, we have time off. I'm like, yeah, but when Sally asked last time, you had a longer pause when she asked, and you mentioned, oh, didn't you take off last week? So that doesn't make her feel good. So now she's going to be a
Mm.
little bit more reluctant to ask you because you questioned her. Now she's thinking you're questioning her worth at work. And now she's like, I can't ask off because I don't want them to think I can't do my job. So creating like even just how they respond, and how they're really creating those cultures, or asking, hey, how was the game? Did they win? Like just even something like that. If you know that she's going to a game for a son, hey, how did it go? It's a game changer. So just little things to create more human interactions, and creating like those real moments with their employees is important. And that's literally what's making or breaking it.
Yeah, it goes back to like that work-life harmony theme. Yeah, that's interesting. Managers can play such a crucial role. And so, big picture, this is a very broad question, and it's intended to be the work that you're doing with employers to help advocate for working moms and the environment that they are in. Who benefits from that?
Everyone. Everyone benefits from it. So the mothers feel heard and reassured, and then the employers, they're retaining talent, they're creating that true inclusive and nurturing culture that they are striving to have. And it's also a great way for like talent acquisition. Hey, this company cares about the moms. Like I'm a dad, or I'm just a guy here, and just knowing I like moms too. Like, hey, you guys care about them, I care too. I like my mom. This is a place to work. And just seeing like a lot of the Gen Zs nowadays, they're really big on looking at the picture of like, what does the company care about? Like money is great, but like, are you giving back? Are you this? Are you that? So I'm noticing a lot of the newer generations, they care about that. So if you're wanting to be a company that really wants to bring in some great talent, you're going to have to care for the parents. You're going to have to care for the well-being of your employees. You're going to have to create a human feel at work, and not like they're just numbers. People are not going to stay with that. They don't care about that anymore. Like they're like, no, I don't feel like I'm loved here. I don't feel that you see me as a human. I'm out. And that's just the way it is. So creating those, environments that really truly care about the human beings working for your company, their families, their well-being is key. And that's what a lot of the big companies are doing. They are all about that. So these little ones need to kind of get in line for sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting to take a look at, the different generations and the different things that they value in general, of course, but also when it comes to workplace benefits. I mean, that's something that Moms with Benefits is really on top of and tracking. And Gen Z, certainly social impact experiences, those are top of mind for that generation. So super interesting and encouraging to hear that you're working with large organizations that are thinking of that and already making moves in that area. So awesome to hear. So I'd love to dig a little bit deeper in before we wrap up. Dig a little bit deeper into burnout. So I know you're a burnout expert, and so can you kind of give us the breakdown of how do you know that you're burnout?
Oh, yes. Burnout is huge. And then with working moms, of course, it's just that unrealistic. expectation that they have on us to like work as if we don't have children as if we don't work, and if we're not doing things 100% perfect at all times, we are failing, basically, is what society is basically putting that on us. And yeah, and then, so we get burned out, and basically burnout is literally the step before like depression. So we need to help not feel that way. But one way I could talk about this is my own experience. I was, I guess, a people pleaser. I was trying to climb the ladder. I was trying to show that I belonged in a space. And, when I became a parent, it was just apparent that I can't do it all. I can't function the way I was. And there was to a point where I did not feel comfortable asking off, or, saying like, hey, I'm overwhelmed. And I started feeling really bad with everything, to the point where I was in the car just crying, like I don't want to go in the house because I have a literal second shift to do. I would go in the shower and just be in there, just like, I just need some time off. I was, pushing my husband away, yelling at the kids more, like not my general self, brain fog, just a lot of different things. And it actually led me to a point to being in urgent care. I had to go to urgent care because I felt like I was going to have a mental breakdown. And I just asked them if I can get a doctor's note so I can have a couple days off. And that realization was key to show that like the status quo wasn't sustainable. It wasn't something that I could do. And a lot of us are walking in this way. And it's so interesting. A lot of people that I speak with and coach, they only know burnout. They literally live that way. They're like, oh, that's not normal to be, sleeping all day, or just, not really sure of myself, or, oh girl, I hate going home. Oh, I hate, I sit in a car and eat my dinner and I'll just sit in there for hours just watching Netflix because I want to be alone, or, all these different things. There's just so many different pieces where you just kind of feel like you're at your wits' end. And, it's just not okay to function that way. Like, we're not being our best self. We're not giving our best self. So, and most moms, especially working moms, have that burnout. And one of the biggest things to help get rid of that and help overcome that, which again, it may not ever be like 100%. I know that I still have some issues that I'm like, okay, Danielle, like focus, you're falling back into that burnout. How can I get recentered? But including people in the journey, letting your family, your friends know like, hey, can I have help? Like, I'm dealing with this. This is what I'm going through. Can you help me out with this? And I know a lot of times we don't want to ask for help because we don't want to look weak or we can't do our job, but we literally can't do it ourselves. And we're going to end up back in urgent care, or, other things, or, on medication and depressed, and, all these things if we're not taking care of ourselves. So adding people is really important. And then, just, having a healthy routine, like, just having some kind of thing for you, something you're looking forward to is really important. Like, once I get this done, like, I'm going to do this, like having those goals and things in place are really important. But I can speak about burnout all day. This is my jam. This is literally why I created Motherboard, due to my personal experience. And I want to fix all of this. And, but there's so much to be fixed, so many things, so many pieces to it. That's just my journey. And that's just kind of where I am and where I'm going with that. But
Yeah, another great example of a mom's journey, personal experience, and has been transformed into a business that's helping other moms substantially with a problem that other moms have. And so it's just a beautiful, beautiful circle there. I have a follow-up question. So when you were talking, it was interesting to me that you commented that burnout is the step before depression. And so in my mind, like my mind goes to like a spectrum. So if we have depression on the left-hand side, one step before that is burnout. I'm going to go the middle is like an equilibrium, and then like the right side is like thriving. Is that like a spectrum that like makes sense in the context of your expertise with burnout, or talk to me through like what would you change or add?
yeah, no, I think that's a good analogy, vision of that. But basically, yes. So once you go and you get to a point where you really cannot function, that's when a lot of times you go to the doctor, you like, I'm experiencing all these things, and I now don't want to get out of bed. I now, feel this. I now am like super crying. I just don't want anything to do with anything. And now, like, my mental is definitely at a point where I need like really, really big help, really, really deep things to help me get out of this. when you're able to recognize before the turn that these are the things that are issues in my life, how can I divide and conquer when it comes to, you know, hitting each one of these and like changing these is really important. So one of the things, like once you're feeling that way, or like to a point where you're like, I feel like I'm about to be burned out, is taking a step back and saying, okay, these are what's causing the burnout, and then figuring that out and how can I help alleviate or dismiss these feelings. And again, that's kind of where like I walk through with my coaching and with like our whole motherboard framework with that. So um, one of the things is when you like, you know, when it say someone wants to join as a user, like they have a whole quiz they take to see kind of where they are. Are you super burned out? Are you almost there? Or are you trying to just prevent? So those are the biggest things that we focus on. And
Interesting.
then we, you know, go through it and we kind of see the needle move, like, hey, you were for here, but now you're here through, you know, our monthly offerings and stuff like that. So it's just really big to kind of know where you are to start, and just recognize, hey, this is burnout. I am hitting it. This is not feeling good. And like, what am I going to do about it?
Yeah, that's super interesting. The idea that you can be in like a preventing burnout stage. Cause I think oftentimes there's this narrative of self burnout, and then you're going to be fly to the other side of the spectrum and you're going to be productive and crushing it and thriving and doing it. And it's like that might be the end goal. And you might have days like
Yeah.
that. But that's like the opposite side of the spectrum if you're
Mhm.
already burned out and edging into the depression side of the spectrum. And so like baby steps kind of,
Yeah.
doesn't need to be black and white and like one side dramatically to the other side kind of thing. So
And when you're
interesting.
like super burned out, the first thing is like what they're needing is like, I see you. I see you.
Mm.
I am you. I'm here for you. So that's like first. And then now that we see this, let's work together on how we can get this to the next, you know, get you out of this. So yeah, that's first.
Yeah. Feeling understood, feeling like they're seen. Huge, huge for
Mhm.
all moms and particularly I would say new moms. So awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Danielle. We covered
Yeah.
so many awesome topics. It was so wonderful to hear, a little bit about your individual and unique journey into motherhood, as well as all the incredible things that you are doing at Motherboard. So, if there's listeners out there that want to find you, where can they find you?
Yes. So you can go to daniellemelton.com, or if you're wanting to also just check out Motherboard, we're at Join Motherboard on all platforms. So that's our website, that's all social media, and just get plugged in. Even if, you know, Motherboards may not be, you know, what you're looking for, just make sure you are plugged into a community, have people around you who help cheer you on and that you can be vulnerable and real to. That is key. So finding that village, y'all. Find a village. Don't go through this alone. We are not meant to do motherhood alone. And yeah, most definitely just get plugged in. Find your people. Find them. They're out there.
Awesome. Thanks again, Danielle.
You are welcome. Thanks for having me.
Moms with Benefits is chasing financial and emotional stability for motherhood. If you've resonated with any of the stories from our moms, we'd love for you to give us a rating and quick review to help spread the word. You'll also find Moms with Benefits on Instagram at momswithbenefits.org. Keep going and keep growing, Mama.